pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hard to follow when everybody's on mute.
All right, this is gonna be fun. This is gonna be challenging here. So we're gonna, everybody's seen the agenda, I assume. Everybody's got a copy of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda, or is there any changes or corrections they'd like to make?
Teresa,
I'd move to approve.
Teresa, we missed you. You're muted.
Okay, Bob made a motion to approve. Teresa, you're muted, so we couldn't hear you, but
I'm unmuted. I'll second that motion.
okay, motion's been made and seconded for approval of the agenda. Do we wanna do, well, it's, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Jack is muted.
Jack, you're muted.
Okay, aye.
Okay.
I count 4 yeses.
Okay, we gotcha.
Yeah, we should be doing by district.
Yeah, we'll do district from now on. We'll do roll call vote from now on, okay? That'd probably be a little simpler. Okay, now we'll go to, approve the minutes of the March 24th board meeting. Everybody has a chance to look at those minutes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the March 24th board meeting?
So move.
Second?
Second.
Jack seconds it. Is there any other discussion? If not, we'll do a roll call vote for the minutes.
District 1,
Yes.
District 2,
Yes, sorry.
District 3,
District 3?
everybody froze.
Great.
And type. I see me. I see. Come on. Oh boy. Just lost the whole thing, didn't I?
Yep.
You know, and I even made
Okay.
brownies for today.
Okay, hey, we're back on.
He's back, he moved.
Okay, we were in the process of voting. I have District 1 yes, District 2 yes, to District 3
Yes.
and 4.
Yes.
Okay. March 24th approved.
Okay, we'll move to approve the March 31st work group session minutes. Is there a motion to approve those minutes?
Move to approve.
Second.
Any more discussion? If not, all those approve, well, no, we'll go to the roll call, sorry.
District 1,
Yes.
2,
Yes.
3,
Yes.
and 4.
Yes.
Approved.
Okay, minutes approved. We'll go to the April 7th work group session minutes. Is there a motion to approve those minutes?
So move.
Second.
Roll call?
Walter and Miller. District 1,
Yes.
District 2,
Yes.
3,
Yes.
and 4.
Yes.
Okay, minutes approved. Now we'll move to public comment. Is there anybody online that would like to have a public comment? If not, we'll move ahead with the consent agenda. Everybody's had a chance to look at the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion on the consent agenda? Okay, we'll go with a roll call vote.
District one,
Yes.
District two,
Yes.
three,
Yes.
and four.
Yes.
Approved.
Okay, we'll move on to the action items. We'll start with the tabled action from the last regular meeting, to reassign Sue Tossison to the position of probationary accounting clerk, effective April 27th. Is there a motion to approve that action?
I'll make a motion to approve that action, as she is not a new hire, she's a replacement.
I'll second the motion as she's critical to keeping the finances going.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Is there any other discussion on that?
I know that, I know this is a kind of an important position that, we've had before just to get our reimbursements, and also being on that family collaborative board. This person really needs to be on top of that to get state money for the school districts. So, just my opinion, and it's an important position.
I would opine that the work that needs to be done is getting done. There's been no overtime assigned, and I won't go into the whole litany of what's going on around us. I will just mention that Mayo Clinic is lowering the wages of thousands of people. Many people are out of work, and I just think it's extremely poor timing at this point, and that even some symbolically, I thought if we can get through this crisis without this position, we should do it.
I think this position pays us money because of reimbursements if they're caught in time and filed for. So,
As I just mentioned, Teresa, it's getting done. What have we missed? Can you list them for me?
John, can you answer that question? Are we getting our reimbursements as timely as we used to?
To my knowledge, we are. That department has been running short-staffed and in the process of training staff. As I mentioned in the brief that I sent to the board, there's been quite a bit of change with long-term employees leaving and new employees coming in and being trained. They have done an admirable job, and I don't know that is cause to suggest that the position isn't needed. It's more indication that they have gone far above and beyond what's expected. But to my knowledge, we are maintaining the necessary things we need to do. I know right now is a quarterly report time. It's very difficult to get other finance related things done during that time because everything is focused on getting those reports done. So I would agree that that division has been able to achieve the work that is necessary. They're not unlike others in our department and across the county who, when they are down staff, they pick up the pace, they pick up the slack, and in anticipation of being staffed at the level established at some point. I'd also note that this already is a reduction in the number of people who were previously doing this work prior to the integration of the two departments. Does that answer your question, Commissioner Walter?
Yes, it does. I think it's a replacement in-house, not a new hire, and I think finance is really needed in public health.
Any more discussion? If not, we'll proceed with a roll call vote.
District one,
No.
two,
Yes.
three,
Yes.
and four.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Okay, now we'll move on to the second tabled action for search for a public health case aide, vacated by Sue Tosseson. Is there a motion to consider that action?
Can I ask a question before a motion?
Yes, go ahead.
John, what happens if you don't replace that person?
Two things I'll mention on this position. First of all, this is a critical position within our public health operation, and specifically related to a previous cut we made of a WIC coordinator. We've tried hard across the agency, across public health and human services, to focus our professional time on things that that we need a professional to do. A fair amount of that WIC coordinator position was administrative in nature, and therefore able to be done by a case aide, and that's why we established the position. So that has become an integral part of that operation, as well as our home and community-based services. So what it does is it helps us focus our professional nurse and social work time on things that we need a nurse or social worker to do, and therefore not necessitate additional staffing needs in those areas. The other thing I'd note is on the agenda we had the replacement for the CMH worker that was in your consent agenda. There was an asterisk there saying recruitment would be delayed until lift of all social distancing requirements. This would be the same. There's well, it's a critical position, and as is the position in accounting, we would work with those two divisions to try and meet the needs of the two of them in transition. That transition will be unlike transitions we've seen in the past due to the difficulty we have with recruiting right now. So I would put an asterisk by this one as well that would say that we would wait until the social distancing, the stay-at-home orders, those types of things are lifted before we began the process of recruiting a replacement. As such, Susan would be probably beginning to do some of both of those duties, and we would work with those two divisions to kind of smooth that transition as best we could. Does that answer your question?
Right. From that answer, we don't really have to make the decision now, because we aren't gonna do anything until it's lifted, and I think it's been extended till what? May 13th?
Either it's the 6th or the 13th, I can't remember.
I think it's the 13th.
I think so.
Thought it was the 4th.
We don't have to-
There's two dates. The stay-at-home order is extended to the 4th of May. The emergency declaration has been extended through the 13th.
Yeah, there's confusion on that to a lot of people. They thought the stay-at-home was till the 13th. But I think we could amend the table this action until May 13th, which would give a little time or see what happens next. Or we could just plain say we're not gonna do anything until after the stay-at-home or, you know, social distancing is lifted.
Well, I think, yeah,
We would not plan to do anything as far as recruitment in this position. Tess and I have visited about this, and we would not plan to do anything in recruitment for the position until after the governor's orders and social distancing guidelines have been lifted.
Thank you, that's informative.
But with that said, we don't have to take action on this particular aspect today.
then we will table this action then.
Well, somebody make a motion, I suppose.
I'll make a motion to table action on replacement for, the K-Save Public Health.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any more discussion?
I would just add, you know, the fact that it's public health, one would have to be blind, deaf to not understand the pressure on public health, nationwide. By the same token, I would reiterate my thoughts previously of implementing a hiring freeze after the current positions are approved after this tabling.
Okay, well, we'll approach that after we have this vote on tabling the motion, or tabling the action. We'll proceed with a roll call vote.
District one.
Yes.
Two.
Yes.
District three.
Yes.
Four.
Yes.
Passed.
Okay. Now we'll move on to, action item number 3, consider approval of the Houston County Collaborative Design Group. Nope, I shouldn't say Houston County, but Collaborative Design Group Professional Services Agreement for the historic jail construction planning phase. I don't know if Tess, you want to give us some updates on that?
Just by way of recap, we, as you may recall, we applied for and was granted a small legacy grant. Small legacy grants capping out at $10,000. We determined that that is for the to be used for the construction documents for the roof, as well as construction documents for the rest of the envelope, the windows, the tuck pointing, any tuck pointing that may be needed, steps, and the fascia and associated trim. The construction documents are important to have in hand. They are necessary in order to apply for a major legacy grant, and so that's where I'm at today. We did have two firms responded to our request for quotes, and one firm was Haydob, and the other firm being Collaborative. And Collaborative was by far the more reasonable quote.
How much was the other quote? First of all, what are the quotes in total there?
The quote for Collaborative Design was for the in total was for $18,320, and the quote for Haydob was well north of that. It was they were proposing $9,800 for digital scan and three-dimensional imaging, another 3,500 that I'm not exactly sure what that cost is. They refer to it as the estimated cost of construction at 30%. I would imagine that's for designing, for responding, and putting that report together for the 30%, which is required as part of our milestone requirements to report at 30% completion. And then the architectural structural documentation related to the roof, fascia, soffits, and gutter was for $38,450, and the rest of the envelope at $31,300. So it was quite a different quote. And we're looking at, like I said, basic construction planning and documents, and that is at $18,320 for the whole package. With
Else, where would the other 8 come from? 10 would be covered by this.
it would come out of the budget I have in facilities.
We have, we still have that insurance money. Is that tappable?
That's a Carol question, I believe it is.
Okay.
I believe that money is in general fund anyway, so,
Yeah.
so,
I was not relying on that money in putting this forth, as that money could be, instead of, tapping away at it. My preference, although it would be certainly to be looking at that. Whoops, sorry.
Is there a deadline on when we need to approve this contract, or can we stall a little bit and see how we come through the financial part of this?
Commissioner, we're all ready because of the challenges with current COVID. We have milestones we have to meet, and the first phase 1 milestone is June 1. That's why our documents have to be at 30% completion for submission to the Minnesota Historic Society. So the answer to that, I'm afraid, is no.
where are we at on the phase 1 of the grant application for the courthouse building?
That is, we have pre-application, what they call your pre-app, that to be reviewed is due the end of May. And so, if you approve this contract today, Collaborative, I've been in conversation with them, and they have agreed to assist me in making sure that we have met all criteria for any questions that may relate to that roof, since they were the firm that actually put the plans and the construction documents that we submitted before. So I've also contacted the Houston County Historic Society as well to see what further documentation we can get. So we've got the ball rolling on it, and once we get through this part here, that would be my, that's next on my plate, to finalize that pre-app and then bring it to the board and bring it, move forward with it.
So the fact that, because we were denied the first go-around for the courthouse building grant, correct?
Correct. Based
So
on,
then you have-
I believe, their misunderstanding of the research that we had done. And so we'll make sure that's very clear.
So then we have to do another pre-app for that phase of it?
And we can, I'm sorry.
We have to do another pre-app for that to rerun that through?
Yes, but that would not be at any external consulting cost at this time. We'd be doing that ourselves internally. We're now, as is this document, it was all done internally.
What is the actual cost to us for this approval of this collaborative design? What would our cost be?
$8,320.
83?
$8,320 to get all the construction, to get all the external construction documents for a roof and what I'm calling envelope.
You know, it's hard to justify that kind of thing when we're going through, trying to cut back our expenses, you know, and that's where people are saying, what are you doing with, you know, I'm just thinking here.
I understand, and that's a legitimate question. The state is paying us, is willing to, has committed, I should say, $10,000 to the project, and this would be our match. And like I said, I don't think we would have, I know we won't have to dip into general fund. I'm not asking for that.
My argument all along has been that we, as a board, need to make a decision what we're going to use that old jail for before we proceed with any improvements on roof or exterior work. So that's been my issue all along. And I agree with what Teresa was concerned about as far as the $8,300. I know, you know, and I know Jack's brought it up that things are different now, and with the COVID-19 situation, we don't know what we're going to get for income coming in the future here because of what's going to happen to the economy. So with that, is there a motion to consider the collaborative design group quote for construction documents?
If we approve this, we'll have the information in hand. It doesn't mean we have to bid out the project right away, but we'd have all the documentation and the information necessary to bid it out in the future. If we back off on this, it's gonna conceivably cost us more in the future to get this information. Going on the assumption that at some point in time, we're gonna wanna do something with the old jail. And we do have things that need to be done on the courthouse. So, from my perspective, I think it doesn't hurt the current budget, and it is something that needs to be addressed, so I'll make a motion to approve it.
Motion's been made, is there a second?
I'll second.
Any more discussion?
May I add a comment?
Yes.
I understand all of the concerns and that you've expressed. I will say that it will be very difficult to be able to get these documents in hand for at a price point of $8,300. And so this is really although the timing is poor, this is an extreme value to the county. When I was speaking early on with Brian from the highway, Brian, our county engineer, he estimated, when I just asked him for a ballpark estimate, he said, and I asked if we could get it for about $16,000. He said you'd be lucky if you could. So I think the fact that we have a quote coming in at $18,320, which would only cost the county $8,320, I think that is just a good value. I understand the timing though.
I would just mention too that I don't want to be looking like I'm speaking out of two sides of my mouth because of my previous comments on spending and pulling our horns in, so to speak, but I think the fact that, we would be jeopardizing the 10,000 from the state, and, as far as, Eric's concern about, using the building and we need to do that, and I couldn't agree more. But I think regardless of what we end up doing with that building, we can better do it if improvements like this are made to it. Gonna take care of the roof, but whatever we do with it. So I think at this point, as long as we're not dipping into the general fund, I would be supportive.
Is there a possibility, Tess, of that if we can submit these construction documents, that we would get the grant for that project for the jail before we would get the grant for the courthouse?
Commissioner, that is, as I sit here, think about it, I believe we could stage it, that would be in our control, that we could stage either phase one being the courthouse or phase one of our, planning being the jail. The second, thing I would say about, or historic jail, I should say. The second thing I would say is there is always the possibility of trying to submit one combined, request, although, that might be, just difficult simply because of the total value that would be involved. But yes, I think whether we submit it for, you've got me on the spot here, I'm thinking about this, being the pre-app has to be done by the end of May. Actually, for this cycle, that wouldn't be possible to submit it for this cycle. So we'd still be submitting the, so I'm gonna back off of what I was saying. I think we have to, you certainly could wait and submit the jail for the 2021 as your first project if you want, but you wouldn't be able to submit it this summer because our documents aren't done.
Well, that's just a concern for me, that we could get that grant for the jail and be denied the grant for the courthouse, and here we're fixing up a building we're not utilizing, and then the courthouse is not being fixed.
Well, the grant, the end of May, the pre-app that I was referring to earlier is for the courthouse. I understood your question to be whether we could submit the jail first, and,
No, I don't wanna submit the jail first, I'm just asking, is there a possibility that that would be granted to us first while we're still trying to get the one for the courthouse?
no, because the time, there are two different, years that
Okay.
they'd be submitting.
And that would be, as I understand it, would be the ball's in our court, because once we have the jail documents, then we go forward with the request. And so we would prioritize the request for this building before the request for that building. It wouldn't be two simultaneous requests.
You can stack them however you wish to stack them.
Yeah.
I would recommend taking advantage of this year, making our large legacy grant request in this, grant cycle for
Just-
the courthouse.
Just a reminder that this is a matching grant, so, and each one was for 300,000, so, so there's the possibility that it'd be a total of $600,000 if we were to be successful in getting the whole, grant. Okay, we've had a motion to accept the, bid and a second. We'll proceed. Any more discussion? We'll proceed with a roll call vote.
District one.
Yes.
District two?
No, for the same reasons of, I stated before that we should, as a board, be making a decision on what we're gonna utilize that jail for.
District three?
I'm gonna vote yes on the basis that if we get the plans for the 8,300, we don't have to do them next year. Once the plans are in hand, I mean, we could wait for the year after as far as that's concerned and decide what we're gonna do with the jail.
And District four?
I'm gonna say yes only because we can delay this project, because I do feel the courthouse itself should be a priority, not the old jail.
Motion passes.
Okay, now we'll go to, action item number 4. Consider an acceptance of the low bid quotes from Bruning Rock Products and Milestone Materials for CP 2020 and 01 for delivery of stockpile aggregate for various highway projects. I don't know if Brian, you wanna step in here and talk a little bit about it?
I
Yeah,
don't
so,
think- Go ahead.
okay, this is essentially the same as what we did last year. We do this about every other year where we do, maintenance rock and road surfaces. The other years we do shouldering work. We bid it out based on roadway, not on lump sum total for all roadways combined. So when we got the quotes back the bids submitted this year, Bruning Rock was the low bid on County 5, County 8, 11, 19, and 31. And Milestone Materials was the low on 12, 20, 22, 23, 24, 28, 32, and County Road 249. So for the approval for this, the approval is actually 2 different contractors for 1 submittal. So we'd approve Bruning for the roadways that they would be low on, Milestone for the roadways that they're low on. So that's why there are 2 separate contractors approved for this one.
Okay, Bob?
With regard to the dollars and the quantities, you've got quantities estimated for these roads, am I correct?
Yes.
And the dollars fell in line with what you were budgeting?
Yeah, we budgeted 300,000. The totals come up to $317,224.30. So we can underrun quantities by 5%. That's within our contract requirement or contract terms. So we can underrun to get within that $300,000 budget. And again, we're going to put it down based on the way we'll adjust as needed depending on what we find out there as we go through the rest of spring load restrictions. We do not plan on overrunning our, needing to tap into fund balance or anything for this with this contract.
Guess what I was driving at, but now the way you put it, we're obligated to spend about the $300,000, 5% under that is the most that we can reduce it.
I believe we can go down to, I think we can go 10% under or 20% under on this contract. So we can go a little bit, reduce it by a little bit more than that. I would recommend not to do that this year. Recommend get the full quantity out there because we have skipped several years of putting rock on the surface the other way up until last year, so we got behind. One of the items later on, that out of seal bid that we had earlier, that one is 155,000 under our budgeted amount for the year. So some of that money is where we started having extra overruns on other projects or for some damaged areas from some slow failures, other things we're seeing this spring. That's where we're planning on covering those expenses. So we are going to still hopefully end up being under in other areas.
I guess I'm just going like what Jack was talking about as far as finding ways to reduce costs for the county, and if we're able to cut back on some of the rock projects and whatnot, it would be a benefit in that regard.
Yeah, I mean, you absolutely could if that's what you decide, but just know that there is a different area that we'll have a pretty substantial savings, in my estimation at this point.
I hate to see us, cut back on maintaining our roads. That seems to be an important function of the county, and, you know, there's other ways we can save some money. I hate to see it taken out on our roads.
I was just asking.
Yep. Okay, any more discussion? If not, is there a motion to approve the, low bid quotes from Bruning Rock and Milestone Materials?
So moved.
I'll second it.
Any more discussion? If not, we'll proceed with a roll call vote.
District one?
Yes.
Two?
Yes.
Three?
Yes.
And four.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, now we'll proceed with action item number 5, acceptance of all bid quotes for stockpile aggregate quotes. CP 2020-02 for use of regular maintenance in emergency situations. Brian, that's something we do every year.
Yep, so this is something we do every year. So we receive quotes from various suppliers, and we accept them all. And what we do is when we have a project in the area of quarries, we look at whatever quarry is cheapest, factor in the trucking of material to the site, contact that quarry if they have rock available. That's where we get it from. If they don't have it available, then we look at, do we go to the next cheapest and get rock from them. So depending on what part of the county, some of these contractors or suppliers have quarries all over the county, other ones only have 1 or 2 quarries. So we accept them all, and then as was mentioned, when we run into some type of emergency, we have a price. It's worked really good. FEMA's accepted that in the past when we need to get out there in a hurry. We have a cost, there's no arguing over what that price of the material is.
Okay.
This is as needed quote.
Yes, as needed.
You must have something budgeted for this though.
Yeah, so we have some money. I don't know the exact dollar amount. I can pull it out and look at it if you really want to know what it is. But so this gets used for, say that we have some type of excavation needed within a roadway. So we dig up to replace a culvert. When we have the rock that needs to go back in, we'll use these prices, these quotes, to get rock put down underneath that new pavement that's going back in for that asphalt patch. Or if we have some type of failure of a roadway. So.
But it's money that you've budgeted, but it's kind of discretionary. If you need it, get it, otherwise, so this is another area that you'll have to decide if it's really necessary or not, and from a budgetary saving point of view.
Yeah, so where most of this money ultimately goes is to when we do culvert replacements. So we try to replace culverts when they're failing prior to doing a paving job. So we'll look at what we have for construction projects for 2020, the heavy repaving, replace those culverts, and we get rock to go in there. So that's where a lot of this ends up going, and then additional, if we have some type of flood damage where we need to get additional rock to fix some surfacing. So
With regard to culvert repair, what's the cost to do the lining of a culvert versus replacing the culvert? I mean, is that a wash, or is the putting a lining in cheaper?
Lining's not cheaper in most cases. When you get down into deeper culverts, that's when we ultimately come out ahead. So if we have a pipe that's 15, 20 feet down, 18 to 30 inch pipe, a lot of the lining is going to be the better option to go. So we've been doing some of that on those deeper pipes. The benefit there is that the roadway surface doesn't settle afterwards. When we do full excavation, dig it up, replace a shallow pipe, you always get that little bit of a settlement. So that's where we kind of gone to lining on the deeper pipes, digging them up and replacing them on the shallower pipes.
Brian, just for a couple examples, what this would be used for is like a situation like you had last year on County 21 where we had them slough offs, and you pulled from a couple different quarries that were close by for that project. That was along the same lines, right? I mean, that's what you use this for, is emergency situations. I know you pulled from Van Gundy's and Nelson Rock Products.
Yeah, so I believe it was used on County 21. A couple years ago, we had on County 22, we had a heavy rain event on a Friday night. We had to get that road open back up. We just used, half a dozen loads, it might have been a dozen or two, or one or two dozen loads of rock to haul out there just to fix some surface, get the road back opened up. That's where this is used on the emergency side.
Yep.
Bigger jobs, if it's a really big job, we bid it out. But
Right.
if it's a little bit, small quantities, get the road open back up, that's where we use this the most, along with pipes.
Is there a motion to accept this bid from,
Okay, motion to accept all the bids to be used at the discretion of the engineer.
is there a second?
Second.
We'll proceed with a roll call vote.
Walter. District one,
Yes.
two,
Yes.
three,
Yes.
four.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, now we'll go to action item number 6. Consider acceptance of all bid quotes for equipment rental prices for 2020-03 for use in regular maintenance or emergency situations. Brian?
Yep, so this is similar to the last one, except this is where, we have something where it's, need to have a bigger backhoe than what we have, just to do stuff efficiently, to get in there, get something done and get out. Or, need someone to go out there to do some tighter seating for us where we don't have the equipment at all. So we use this, for that, along with, emergency repair type stuff on the smaller projects for the most part. Bigger emergency repairs, usually we hire out, or we go through a full-blown quote process. So this has been done, same manner as the stockpile aggregate. It's been done in this county this way for, a couple decades. It's been working really good. Recommend approving them all. And then same thing, we'll go to the lowest, cost contractor for, who we hire if they have anything available. If not, then we go to the next one.
Question with regard to this, when you say emergency and whatnot, that's small emergencies, and then the big emergencies that, then FEMA gets involved with that? Or would this cover the FEMA emergencies and we gotta wait for reimbursement as well?
Yeah, so we do it both ways. So it depends on the type of damage, the impacts to the traffic. If we can leave the roadway left alone without doing the repairs and wait to get stuff quoted out or bid out, we go that route. If the traffic is being impacted, if there's a safety issue, you hire them, you get it done, you get it fixed. There's also, with FEMA and with Federal Highway ER, there's some time limits where during the first couple days after the damage, you get out there and get stuff repaired right away. That qualifies under an emergency side. If you wait beyond that, then it gets into the permanent repair side, no longer qualified for emergency. So there's benefits and disadvantages both ways. So we always look at that and decide when it's best to use this, when it's best to wait.
Brian, I just have a question. In there, it mentions rental equipment. This is somewhat unrelated, but it makes me think of it. Do we ever borrow from Winona or Fillmore for equipment that they may have that we don't? Or vice versa, do they ever borrow from us?
Rarely. There are some counties that share some stuff. Olmsted County has more equipment, so they have more stuff to share. I know they do some sharing with Dodge County and Mower County and stuff like that. When we look at Winona County and Fillmore County with what they have, a lot of us kind of have the same equipment. We don't really find that benefit of sharing. And then it's also finding that staff availability. The time that we help each other out the most, both us helping the other counties and other ones helping us, has been when you have that flood, that disaster, you need additional rock trucks to haul rock for roadways. A couple years ago, we had Dodge County down. They sent 3 trucks down for a week to help out. The actual construction equipment, like a larger backhoe or stuff like that, no, we haven't done that since I've been here. But we do talk about it on a regular basis, trying to figure out ways to help each other out more.
Okay, thanks.
That said, I'll move to approve. Or did we already have a motion?
No.
I'll move to approve.
Second?
I'll second.
Proceed with a roll call vote if there's no more discussion.
District one,
District one? Yes.
two,
Yes.
three,
Yes.
and four.
Yes.
Passes.
That echo drives me crazy. Okay, now we'll move on to action item number 7. Consider acceptance of the low bid quote for CP 2020-06 for auto seal surfacing on County Road 24.
Okay, so this is the item that I mentioned before. We have $420,000 in the budget for our seal coat budget for this year. We're looking at what we have for projects for seal coating, and what we would like to do this year is kind of a beefed up seal coat. It's an auto seal where they use extra oil. It's a heavier, thicker oil and a larger rock instead of a standard seal coat. Want to do this on County 24. We talked about doing this on one other roadway as well. We had 3 quotes. The low quote was from Partner Asphalt Sealers, $269,548.53. Our estimate was $569,673.40. So basically right on our estimate, substantially below what our budget amount was for this year. County 24, currently in Freeburg, there's about a quarter mile worth of pavement. On the end up by County 3, there's about 1.5 miles of pavement, and there's about a 3-mile stretch in between that is gravel. Within that 3-mile stretch, there's a hill section that has erosion whenever we get some rain events, and then there's another section within the middle of that roadway that we have a lot of erosion. I've been out there a few times when drive out there after a rain event, and there's a foot and a half deep washout in the middle of the roadway. Would like to go out there and essentially put a double chip seal on it, or in this case, the auto seal on that entire roadway, instead of fixing the 2 sections that we have the most maintenance problems with, and then leaving a couple short gravel sections in between there. This has not been done in Houston County for quite some time. We have done some seal coated roadways, double seal coated roadways on our roadways, but we haven't done the auto seal. Winona County's been doing a bunch of auto seal here in the last 3-4 years. I believe they've done close to 20 miles now. It's worked good for them. When they first started off, they were doing the hill sections, same as what we're kind of looking at doing here to solve the problems with that. County 24 is one of the few roadways I would recommend doing this on, because our roadway base is in good shape. It's not real broken down, doesn't have a lot of fines in it. It's not where it gets really soft in the spring like a bunch of other roadways, so we think it's going to hold up pretty good. Cost-wise, we think we're getting a good deal on this. It should hold up for hopefully quite some time and solve our long-term maintenance problems.
Of the 3 miles of gravel, how much are you talking? So we're doing a piecemeal, we're not doing the whole 3 miles?
No, we will do the whole thing. So the other option would be to do the piecemeal, and we just don't want to leave 2 miles of pavement, 1 mile of gravel, 1/2 mile of pavement, 1.5 miles of gravel. So we'll get it all done.
I don't have it in front of me. How much is the auto steel quote?
$169,548.53.
It was 169?
Or $269.
Oh, I was gonna say.
Yeah, $269,548.53.
And that's,
Yeah, and previously, Brian, I think I heard you say, you had budgeted 560, you meant 2 also?
We budgeted $420,000 was the total budget. Our estimate was $269,600.
Right on, okay.
Yep, $120 difference. between the
You gotta
estimate.
be more accurate than that, Can't you get it down to like $80 or something?
Yeah.
That's very good.
So the other 150,000 is gonna be in chip sealing and other places?
So the other 150,000, we have some slope repairs on County 6 that we need to do. We talked last board meeting or workshop session about that stuff on County 3. We know that, we have the potential of having to do some asphalt patch on that surface. This savings from here is where that money's gonna probably end up going to. Or hopefully back in the fund balance at the end of the year.
I'll make a motion to approve the low bid for the auto seal surfacing on County 24.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any more discussion? If not, we'll proceed with roll call vote.
District one,
Yes.
two,
Yes.
three,
Yes.
four.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, now we'll move on to consider acceptance of low bids for annual liquid chlorine purchase for use by county townships and cities from Bluff Country Brine.
This is our annual chloride for dust control on the roadways. The low quote was from Bluff Country Brine at 99.8 cents per gallon for delivered to Caledonia or Spring Grove, $1.03.3 per gallon for delivery and applied to various roadways. Typically we ourselves out of this quantity, about 50,550 gallons are for the county chloride roads. The other 36,450 are for township roads, and we get reimbursed back for the township for our cost of the chloride and the application forms. So Bluff Country Brine has provided chloride to us. I think 3 or 4 years ago was the last time. They've always done a good job for providing the product to us. It's always met spec and it's worked out good. So recommend their approval.
I just want to point out that I read this correctly. It's liquid chlorine. It's actually liquid chloride. It was just not right in my words here, so it's for liquid chloride. Is there a motion to approve acceptance of the low bid?
I'll make a motion to approve the low bid from Bluff Country Brine
Is there
for chlorine.
liquid chloride, yes. Is there a second? I'll second that. Oh, Bob, whatever. Bob's fine. Yep. We'll proceed with a roll call vote if there are no other discussion.
District one,
Yeah.
two,
Yes.
three,
Yes.
four.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Anyone else tired of Brian spending all this money?
But wait, there's more.
One more, he says. Okay, we're gonna go to action item number 9, consider approval of resolution 2024, final acceptance of contract 291 with Matthew Construction. Brian?
So last summer, Matthew did some paving on various roads in the rural areas. So this is filing out project SAP 028-596-001 and SAP 028-030-005, which encompass the paving on County 10, County 20, County 24, and County Road 249. So 4 different roadways were paved under this project. The original contracted amount was $5,031,240.23. Work certified $4,995,441.27. So overall, we came in slightly under the contracted amount, but very close to the contract. So this would close that project out. So we kind of waited until now because we're waiting on some paperwork to arrive. Paperwork's all been received now, and everyone's ready to sign off, close it out.
Okay.
I think this is the only item on the agenda that's actually paying out money, Jack.
Yeah. How much of this was,
I'll make a motion to approve the final contract.
I'll second it.
Any more discussion? Jack, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, how much of this was, covered, this was some state aid money, I'm assuming?
Yep, so 3 out of the 4 roadways are 100% state aid money. County Road 249 is county money. See if we can find out the breakout of that. The local amount is 2.6 million, just over 2.6 million is local, so just over half the contract is county money, the other half is state aid.
Okay, thank you.
Any more discussion? If not, we'll proceed with roll call vote.
District 1,
Yes.
2,
Yes.
3,
Yes.
4.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, I think we're done with you, Brian, thank you. Okay, we'll move to, action item number 10. Consider approval of resolution 2022 for property tax abatements. Now, is this, I didn't catch this one. Was this some add-on or was, okay, what's, you wanna talk about that,
Yeah,
Brett?
you're mute and I'll talk. We're not over. Can you turn your speaker down, Eric?
Speaker?
Yeah, that's feeding back.
Oh, I can't find my speaker.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So resolution 20-22 proposes to abate any property tax penalties from a period of May 15th to July 15th. Right now, there's some debate at the state level if there will be statewide action on property tax. Up until last week, it didn't appear there would be any. At the end of last week and into this one, there appears there may be some action, but that's still undetermined what that'll look like from the state level. Most of the counties that are considering this are looking at a 60-day extension, which we can't technically extend the date, but we abate the penalty for that 2-month period. Some counties are considering a different date with either the 1st or the 30th of July, just to make it a full month for future interest calculations. And some counties are considering not a complete reduction of the penalty, but a 1% penalty instead of a 2 to 6% normal penalty. So that's kind of where things are at in other counties. Winona and Fillmore and I think Olmsted are all considering a resolution similar to ours. So if there's any further questions, I can address those. And I'll turn my volume up.
Yeah, there's Washington counties up by the cities.
Yeah, one of them, I think is Washington County, just approved essentially what we're being asked to approve. So that's one that has made the move. But I just think it's necessary at this point that, like I mentioned before, particularly for people who don't escrow, they're gonna get a whammy that they're just not prepared for now if they've lost their job for now or whatever, so.
Okay, this is for that resolution. It said property tax abatement, so I just was a little confused at that. But this is for the resolution for foregoing the late penalty fee until July 15th for the first half property tax payments. And I too believe that this is a little something that we could do for the people and the businesses that are struggling right now and could use a little more time in paying their taxes. Though for those of us that can pay our taxes, we encourage them to pay them, and try not to take advantage of the system and not pay them just because you can get by with it. But it's for the people that are suffering, the businesses, the restaurants, small businesses that had to been shut down to no fault of their own. So I feel this is important that we try to do this, a little something, and keep it simple so it's not complicated for Donna to handle. And I guess this is similar to what Winona's doing, and so I think it's something we should consider.
Eric, I was just going to, I would assume if the state does make some statement or some move here this week, that would then supersede whatever we as a county decide.
I would assume that also. If not, we could always adjust next time around too. I would assume that would be the case, Jack.
Okay.
Well, our legislators did tell us that at this point, it's a county decision to do a resolution, and
Yep.
that's what we're doing today.
Yep.
Right. I would move to approve this.
Okay. Jack made a motion. Is there a second? Teresa, you second that? Okay. Any more discussion?
Walter, a second.
If not, we'll proceed to roll call vote.
District 1,
Yes.
District 2,
Yes.
District 3,
Yes.
and District 4.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right. We'll move on to, I think we're done with the action items. We'll move on to discussion items, administrator updates.
All right, first thing I would remind everyone that today is election day for our special election with District 5. We did have a decent turnout with absentee and early voting, and so we'll see what kind of turnout we get at the polls today. And Donna has worked with the precincts that are open today to address all the social distancing and cleanliness concerns, and so we'll do, they will all be doing their best to keep everybody healthy and safe while they exercise their right to vote. And we should have results at some point this evening, and then the canvassing board will be on Friday.
Are we moving paper on top of a microphone, or what's over back there?
Something.
Eric, can you hit the F4 button, the mute button on yours? On your speaker? One second.
I'm causing trouble.
Right up here, you can just hit the mute button quick on your speaker.
Eric, you went silent.
Sorry, we're just getting feedback with both computers operating in the room here, so I've had him mute his speaker while I'm talking, and then I'll do the same when he's talking. And hopefully we can eliminate that
For some
static.
reason you're awfully garbled.
Okay, is it still coming garbled now?
Now you're okay. Eric, are you on?
No, he's muted.
I'm muted.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Eric is muted while I talk, and then I'll mute while he talks, since we were getting feedback back and forth between the two speakers. So yeah, election day today. The second item I would bring up to discuss is there's been lots of talk about the drop sites and our operations there. Been talking with Aaron about how we can open, and we've been talking with John to bring in the public health side of things. And from a broader perspective, public health wise, to minimize traffic, minimize distancing and things, would support the closure, or at least the reduction in hours in the sites. We acknowledge that there is significant concern about the ability to keep trash flowing and keep the recyclables going. And so we've been looking at what functions we can do while honoring all the social distancing and requirements. And so I'll send it out to folks so they can see it, but Aaron and I, we've gone through the list of what we accept. And if we can do so where people bring in their own items, handle it themselves, we can accept a little bit more than the trash and cardboard that we are now. Functionally, it makes sense that trash needs to keep flowing, cardboard needs to keep flowing. The rest of the items, the intent was to delay that to minimize travel. But as we look at long-term and being able to continue to operate, we will start allowing that stuff as well, as long as it can be done, both for the safety of residents crossing paths with each other and for the safety of our personnel, because of our limited supply of PPE to provide protection to them. And so as long as, I'll send the list out for you to review, but so as long as customers can bring that to the drop site and unload it themselves, and it doesn't involve exchange of money and that, we can start allowing more things to be brought to the drop site.
On Saturday, I spent a couple hours in Caledonia, then I went down and spent some time in La Crescent. In conversation with Caledonia, they said as long as we're here, if they bring tires and unload them themselves, what's the difference? If they bring an appliance and unload it themselves, certain appliances, I mean, somebody brought a water heater and had to haul it back home and store it. Somebody brought a stove, had to haul it back home and store it. Somebody brought an old extension ladder. I mean, I had some interesting conversations with people out there. And the issue is, as long as we've got somebody there to direct them, and our guys do help, like elderly people and whatnot, with their things a little bit. And when I went to Houston yesterday, it's about the same thing. We're here, if they bring it. The only thing they don't think we should take is like mattresses and cloth covered things that if they get wet, we can't get rid of them. So we aren't gonna accept mattresses and things like that, but if they bring tires, if they bring appliances, if they bring construction material and they dump it themselves, I personally don't see a problem with it. I do give kudos to La Crescent. They have somebody at the front gate that stops each car, says we're taking bag trash only, you unload it, there's a bucket over there, you put your cash in there, and we're not making change, and that was the way they did it. The thing about La Crescent is they don't have as many ag people involved with it, so they don't have as many, and they have the pickup in town, so they don't have as much foreign material coming into La Crescent. Houston has noticed that people with their bags, you know, when you throw your bag in the compactor and you run the compactor, the bag split open, people are starting to throw things in those bags that's not garbage, that should be going into the other containers as far as construction material or whatnot, but they're breaking pieces of wood up, they're breaking up, you know, sheetrock or something, putting it in the bag, and then that's what's going into the trash. We gotta kind of be careful because, I mean, NSP could penalize us for not giving them the proper garbage that they have to pay to sort out of their material. We had that happen once in the past. So from my perspective, if people are bringing tires, appliances, or construction materials that they can throw themselves, I don't see that there's a problem. As long as we maintain our distance.
Yeah, I agree with what you were saying there, Bob. That would eliminate some of the people trying to put their construction materials in the garbage, and we could still do the donation can. People kind of have an idea what they pay anyway, so I agree that we should try to do as much as we can and forget about the mattresses and stuff like that, but the tires and the construction material, you know, if they can unload it themselves, that'd be great.
I do have to say that Caledonia and Houston don't use the can. They take the cash and make change. So there is the handing back and forth of money at those two sites. I haven't been to Spring Grove, but it's really no different, and they're wearing their gloves and whatnot, but.
Yep.
So they're protected to a certain degree in that.
Yeah, so ideally, we'd like to get, established procedures and across all of them. Aaron is hampered a bit by all of the folks that work at those sites are not on a regular email system. Most of that is phone by conversation and stuff with each of those, so some of the translation as stuff has gone back and forth from Aaron to his folks has different interpretations.
Went to the dump. Just here in La Crescent, I thought, wow, we're getting desperate now, but to go somewhere. But La Crescent will help you if you need help. They do wear gloves and they're pretty well protected. They don't hand receipts anymore. They think it's working real well in La Crescent. And they like being open on Saturdays because that's usually the busier day. And they too want to take recyclables and construction material out of the garbage.
I would ask a question, Aaron. I see Aaron's online. I wonder if he wants to step in and have a comment with regard to this.
Sure. Y'all hear me?
Yeah.
Yes. So the additional items that we identified as potential increases in what we accept are all items that we don't charge for. When I looked at trying to reduce that interaction, I think our weakest link now is the exchange of money and the providing of a receipt. Now, it sounds like La Crescent was doing a bucket system. That might be something we can explore more. I know they're doing something similar to that in Olmsted County, where they're operating in a system where they're not providing change. They're telling folks, you can bring a check in or bring the correct amount. By doing that, they're eliminating the need to hand somebody something. That's the one weak link in our system. Now we can't do the 6 foot of social distancing when we're accepting money from folks, and those sites simply don't have the infrastructure to set up. There's no sinks there. There's setting up plexiglass screens and things that we've seen other places would be challenging to do at 5 sites. That being said, for that reason, the additional items that were identified for potential increases in what we accept are all items that don't have a fee associated with them. So that would be appliances, scrap metal, but it would not be tires we charge for. So if somebody comes in with tires and we begin accepting that, that would mean that we're now taking money and writing another receipt out. The same thing applies to construction materials. So if we want to make the decision to accept those, that again means that we've got another category of materials that we are accepting payment for and providing a receipt for. And that I guess is what I think is the weak link in our system, where we're putting both our employees and the public at the largest risk. Many of those sites are fairly busy compared to other places in the county. Last weekend was fairly slow, but last week our numbers at drop sites were at over 100 on Wednesday for the Caledonia sites. If we had a scenario where one of our employees was a carrier of this, they're interacting with a lot of folks on a daily basis, and I think we want to make sure that those interactions are done in a way that takes every precaution to prevent that kind of outcome, and are minimized really to only what's absolutely necessary. When I look at it, I think what is absolutely necessary, getting rid of your household trash that you're generating on an ongoing basis. But during the middle of a pandemic, it's probably not the time to clean out the shed and haul it to the dump. Or if you're going to do that, perhaps consider a dumpster from a private hauler. Most counties have completely shut things down to self-haulers, and are operating purely with private haulers. Most counties also have a setup where not relying on drop sites like we do, but they have more so a curbside set up. So we have unique challenges because of the system we have. It has a lot of advantages, but in terms of person-to-person interactions right now, it's challenging to make that type of system work. Well, I guess I asked Jeff to bring this up for the board to discuss, because our ability to communicate with our Saturday workers is limited. Those folks only work on Saturdays. Whenever we make a change there or want to communicate something, a process, a policy to them, we have to call every one of them, or we provide written instructions for them. It's difficult to push that to them, and it's equally difficult to push to the public. We rely on the website, we rely on signage and things of that nature, but if we could land someplace where we'll stay for a while, I think that would be advantageous, instead of making changes, every week something is tweaked a little bit. That makes it hard for the public to understand what we accept, and it makes it hard for the drop site employees to understand, what their role is, or how they're to interact with the public. I think we saw some of that last Saturday when we made a decision on Thursday to open back up, and we have in La Crescent, they're using that bucket system, which I think is a great way to approach things, but the other sites, are not. That was in La Crescent, I guess that was of their own initiative. We did have some conversations with some of the drop site employees who are more concerned or involved about the proper way to do this now, about what other counties are doing, and that was something that was discussed, but that's not a policy that was pushed out, and creating that kind of process, that wouldn't be rocket science, but it wouldn't be without challenges to get 10 folks who work only on Saturdays and have no other communication with the county other than a phone call, all on the same page, understanding how they should conduct the sites, operate the sites.
Aaron, this is Jack. Do we, in Caledonia, for instance, do we mandate that the employees wear a mask?
No, we don't have masks to provide the employees. They don't appear to be for sale at vendors now. Some employees bring in their own mask. We mandate that, we suggest to them, and in their instructions that I give them, that they comply with the public health recommendations to the extent possible. So they're trying to social distance to the extent possible, but again, the exchange of money, they cannot do that during that process. They're relying on gloves and hand sanitizer for hygiene of their hands, but they can't wash their hands frequently, which is also recommended. And now the CDC recommends the wearing of masks. Our weekday staff, they informed me last week they began wearing masks at sites, and some percentage of our weekend employees are bringing their own masks in, but we have not provided them with masks. And I guess in terms of our other PPE, we have sites equipped with sanitizer, gloves, and disinfectant spray now, but all those items are hard to source right now. So I worry that, if we exhausted all those, for instance, our hand sanitizer, it might be difficult to acquire.
Okay, Jeff, do you know, would the county have, say 15, 20 masks that could be provided to these drop sites?
I will have to check again. I think every mask we have has been distributed to our law enforcement and our cleaning staff, so, and I know they are reusing masks. As far as cloth masks go, we can find some of those. I gave Donna 50 of them to support the election that Tricia and Maya made, but those are just cloth masks.
Okay.
From a public health perspective, do you mind if I chime in?
Go ahead, John.
I think that, making a decision to keep the drop sites open and adding items that you don't have to collect money for doesn't make a significant difference on risk. The masks, unless you have an N95 are really, from everything we've read in public health, they really don't protect the wearer. It's more of a source protection in case you are contagious but asymptomatic. Just for what it's worth, I think what is happening in La Crescent, where there's a bucket and the communication they have is, look, we're taking exact dollars, we're not making change, you're not getting a receipt, this is how it's gotta be. I think that would go a long way to mitigating potential risk while still keeping the drop sites open. But anything that you're collecting money for, I agree with Aaron, that is a significant risk. It's, if you have 100 people through a site and they're all interacting at close contact with money, receipts, things like that, that is a pretty significant risk that we have in that operation. But I think it could be mitigated if there was something put in place like what is being done in the Crescent.
I agree with what John just said, and I think if we'd adopted the bucket system throughout the whole county, so we can accept tires, because I just don't want to see this stuff starting getting to dump in our ditches. We already are seeing some of that going on now, so I don't see where this would be a problem if we adopted the bucket system to accommodate some of this.
It seems to be working well in La Crescent, that you don't get a receipt, you use a bucket to put your money in, and you unload as much as you can by yourself, and that seems to be working here.
It was pretty smooth when I was there Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And it goes to what Aaron said, we just have to educate our people as to what the process is gonna be.
Exactly.
Yep.
And I have no problem going out to Caledonia and talking to them. I got no problem going down to Houston and over to Spring Grove or anything else on Saturday. If we provide them a bucket, if we get some big signboards, and then, now like Caledonia's got 3 guys on Saturday. La Crescent had 2. Aaron, how many people are at Spring Grove and Hoka in Houston?
There's usually 2 at each site. There was a miscommunication last week. We were calling folks earlier in the week to ask if they would be willing to be scheduled before we actually scheduled them, and one of those individuals misunderstood that. So we had 3 show up in Spring Grove. Because they'd already showed up, I just moved one over to Caledonia because it's usually the busiest site. But normally we have 2 folks at each site.
It's the way La Crescent did it. They had somebody at the gate telling them, like I said, bags only and exact change. Now Caledonia talked about that and says, what do you do with somebody that brings 1 bag and hands you a $20 bill?
Thanks for the tip.
If they take your bag and go make change a quick trip and come back, right?
What I would propose, and I guess based on what I'm hearing, is I could talk with the weekday, our permanent employees who work in the program, see if they could possibly flex some time and work on Saturday. There's three full-time employees, and they could stop at each site and give specific instruction to the Saturday workers as to what our process would be, because they could develop the process during the week, and then they could train our Saturday workers on it on a Saturday ideally. If we weren't able to flex, we could do that through some comp time or some overtime if need be, but first we would look at the ability to flex that time. If this is something that we feel we would be putting in place, maybe for the duration of this, that would likely be worth the cost.
Well, couldn't you, Aaron, communicate with those employees via telephone or send them a letter?
Yeah, that's what we've been doing. We called each of them, and then we have leave, instructions at the sites for them for Saturday mornings, but I think that if we're going to switch to a system where we're using buckets, it may be helpful to have, you know, somebody on site saying, this is how we did it during the week, this is what you're to do, on Saturdays if we're looking for a consistency amongst the sites.
I guess I don't see what the problem is. If we're using the buckets, they could just, people can throw their money in. I don't know what the training is to have to do that.
Let's leave that to Aaron to work out, but I think just, you know, his other example is that there's some communication issues there that takes a little extra work, and so having somebody stop by briefly on Saturday morning will eliminate some of those communication issues and help get everybody working consistently.
From my perspective, if we got 3 people at the site, one's at the gate, just like La Crescent, you gotta have exact change. We're not making change, so however much a egg and however much a tire, you unload everything yourself, so that one person is in there watching the garbage and the recycle, making sure that's what we get, and watching the bucket to make sure that they're paying for it, and the third person watching to make sure that they're putting the materials in the right bins, and that they're putting it in properly. Because human nature says, I'm gonna dump this water heater as an example off, and they leave it at the front of the bin instead of pushing it all the way to the back, so we're more efficient as far as loading these things up too. As long as the people have direction and know what they're doing, you know, it should smooth things out as far as that's concerned. Now, I can go out and work on Saturday and talk to the people at the gate for the 2 guys that are working, and tell people, so if they come to the gate, they don't have exact change, they can do a U-turn, go to Quick Trip or whatever, get their money and come back. But we need enough people to help everybody understand what's going on, at least to get them trained.
Yeah, I don't know that we have enough staff to have 3 at each site, so we do have a number of folks. I think we have 3 now who communicated that they're not comfortable being scheduled during this. We don't have a super deep bench to start with, so I think we could do that for some sites maybe, and we'd probably prioritize the busier sites. The packing of the dumpsters, I would imagine that if we, because we're not assisting with the unloading, we're gonna observe a less tonnage per pole. I think that's just the nature of it right now, but that's probably that it is what it is, and I don't know how we're gonna get it as perfect as we normally get it. What was I gonna say lastly? It's escaped my mind right now. If it comes back to me, I'll chime in. But am I hearing right that we're looking at accepting the board's preferences, that we're accepting everything we normally accept? You know, all other, your tires mentioned a lot. Tires is a charge item. So if we develop a bucket system, the thought is we'll take everything we would take, you know, at this time in 2019.
The only thing I don't think we want to take is like, I was told if they're bringing in mattresses and they get wet, then we get kind of a problem. And I don't know if the electronics place, are they still accepting electronics when that bin is full, or is the electronics place shut down?
I believe that the vendors are still all operating. A lot of jurisdictions that have curbside setups are continuing to operate because they don't have the challenges we have. So I think that our vendors are still going. I know the mattress, the Seven Rivers mattress folks are still operating in La Crosse. The last that we spoke.
Okay. I don't want us accepting something that we can't get rid of. That's my only concern. But I got chewed pretty hard by a guy about not being able to take his tires out of his truck on Saturday. So. And I have heard that we are starting to see tires in ditches. So I would like us to take tires as well. As part of the bucket, pay the bucket.
Yeah.
I think we all have a consensus to that. Do we not? Okay,
Appreciate you taking the time to discuss. I'll work with our full-time staff in that department and Jeff to, come up with something that we can hopefully stick with for some time.
And keep in mind, I am available for Saturday.
We'll keep that in mind.
And I have my own mask.
Thank you.
thank you.
Thanks, Aaron.
The last thing I had written down in my notes, I will forward out a survey to, I'll send it to all of you, but I think it applies most to Commissioner Walter and Miller. The One Watershed, One Plan for the Winona chunk of the river up that way. Comes just into Houston County up in. Keep that speaker.
I got it off.
Okay, sorry. Try this again without my speaker on too. Is that better like that? Okay. So I will send that survey out to you. They are looking at forming up that One Watershed, One Plan.
Can't hear you.
Can't hear you.
Okay.
Does Eric have to go with mute?
Here, I'll mute here.
Yeah.
How's that?
There we go.
Try again, Jeff.
Yep, okay. So, One Watershed, One Plan for the Winona watershed. Dips into just the northeast corner of Houston County there. They're looking at the preliminary efforts to form up that One Watershed, One Plan process and get things initiated. So they've got a survey going to see our level of interest, concern, and some of the concern factors. So just a preliminary survey, and I'll forward that out to all of you to look at and see. So I think that's the last of what I had for updates, and so I'll turn it over to you all for commissioner updates, unless you have any questions for me.
Okay.
Go ahead.
We'll start with Teresa.
Okay, I had a lengthy Zoom meeting for extension, and, today you saw we did approve our committee member Elizabeth Hodek. Also, they are not getting a summer intern for Houston and Fillmore County, or Houston County, actually. We're the ones that don't pay half price, but they wanna know if they could possibly keep the money that we appropriated for the intern to use for, at fair time, for projects at the fair, and anyway, I said I would bring it up to the board for discussion. I think it was what, $3,500 that we appropriated for an intern? So that's something to consider, because they definitely have expenses, and they've been, needing extra money, so I thought I'd bring that up. They were also picked out the farm family, and, Mike Cruz was gonna get hold of them. They had Cindy, Bolden, I think was her name. Her husband passed away, but they're still gonna offer to her and her family to be the farm family. And if she doesn't take it, then they would go with, the Cruz family, Mike Cruz family. So, but hopefully Cindy and her family will take it. Also, Rebecca, of course, their meetings, 4-H meetings are kinda going by the wayside now, and so she's working on doing some online activities and helping develop something that they can use at this time period too. And then I did get a call from a person that wants to know if he has a camper that he wants to bring down, permanent resident down to Wildcat. And I think we did discuss at workshop that rather, when they have to get it out of storage, they can actually put their permanent camper down at Wildcat. Is that correct?
Let me jump in. Yeah, so what we've told them is that they can install, or they can bring the campers down. We're not letting them install any utilities connections yet. And we've clarified with Jake that the park will not be open yet, and we will continue to evaluate once the stay-at-home order is lifted. He's had a couple of requests for just setting up primitive camping, and we don't want to start that unless we're ready to open it up.
Okay, sounds good. I will just confirm that with him. I think he just wants them, instead of bringing it home and putting it in the driveway wants to park it down there. So-
Yeah, we've
and
allowed
then
that.
I did have quite a wild weekend with, concerned people about their taxes. And most of them were from Brownsville Township, which is where I was requested to possibly come and sit in the meeting, because some people don't want to be calling in.
Yeah, that's
They
what I
want
figured
to
to talk
talk
about.
in
I'll
person to our
touch on that with these.
assessor or whoever it's gonna be down there. It seems like a lot of them were having problems with the ag people with having half their homestead cut off of their, for no reason at all. They've always gotten homestead and all of a sudden they don't. One person called and said that he was taken off and they asked him when he moved there and he said about 20 years ago. So it's been that way, and he did get hold of them and they said there were some errors being done on their calculations, so he was trying to work through that. They didn't know if they would get it for this year or what, but there's a lot of very upset people out there about that. And they're, like Bob brought up about the Green Acres, everybody, but that's a state program, so we don't really have any control over that. But they are trying to get answers to that, and there were concerns about trying to reach somebody in that office to get answers, so then they called me instead, you know, like I had the answer, which I did. I actually got one from Greg Davids forwarded to me about an assessment problems, and everybody I get, I try to give them the number for the assessor's office and move forward. I don't know if I'll be much help at the meeting tonight, but like Bob said, he went last night and just listened and stuff, so we'll see what happens. But Brownsville people are very, township people, especially ag people, are very concerned with what's going on with their taxes. I don't know if anybody else has been getting calls on this too, but I sure did this weekend.
I'll jump in here for a quick.
I've maybe not gotten as many calls as you, I've only gotten 4 or 5. And when they call me, I'll call the assessor's office. In a couple of cases, I asked Joe to look some things up for me, and he's been very helpful. I appreciate Joe, he's really been very good as far as I'm concerned. As far as going to the Caledonia meeting last night, they had a number of people online. They had issues with their phone capacity or their use of the phone, and people, when they were on hold, couldn't get off a hold without hanging up and calling back. So they had some issues in that regard. The big majority, people, some people complained about their taxes, and they didn't complain so much about their assessed value or their market value, because like Caledonia, everybody went up 10 or 11%. So they went up across the board as a whole, but they were complaining about how much they were paying in taxes, and that's really not what the meeting is about. It's about the valuation. Taxes comes in truth and taxation later, but people want to complain about their taxes, so that's what they do. I only listened, I didn't throw any input in, because this is for the city council or the town board to decide if they're gonna shift it to the county, and the people have to come to their meeting first before they can be moved to the county. But I wanted to hear what they had to say. I'm thinking about coming to Brownsville tonight too, just to hear.
Yeah, I was able to listen in on Caledonia's and on Houston's, and the feedback from the Yucatan one yesterday morning was all well. I think for the Caledonia one, they had 2 people essentially who called in and talked on phone, although Cindy had a list of about a dozen people who had contacted her separately. Houston had a similar list of numbers of folks. As to comments as far as the office goes, their office is absolutely getting slammed with phone calls. All the phones in there are forwarding directly to Cindy or to her appraisers, and so they're answering calls as quick as they can, and so and they're monitoring the machines, and so if people are leaving messages, they're getting back to folks as quick as they can. And I would say we will continue to support the meetings, there's a list of them that we've offered to host all of them via our Zoom to help with the phone teleconferencing. Some have taken us up on that. Caledonia was using their own system, and so it wasn't much we could do to help them with the phones on hold there. But with the rest of them, we will have either IT or myself hosting the meeting like this, that we have some control over those calls in and help organize the meeting.
I too have been getting quite a few calls on the, not so much the taxes part, paying the taxes, it's the evaluations and the fact that their rural preserve credits are being lowered, and I'm trying to get an answer on, that's a state program that's been provided, and I'm trying to get an answer as why that is being taken away. I haven't got that answer yet. I know there's some issues with the veterans credits that weren't included to the full extent, so they will have to be doing abatements on those. But the homestead one is a big one too, where people have lost their homestead. I know in Yucatan, I think there was 5 out of the 6 people there that lost their homestead credit, and so there was something not quite right there too. So it's been a issue.
Ryan, you looked like you wanted to chime in.
Yeah, if I can just add one thing to that conversation on the campers on the Wildcat. I spoke with Jake yesterday afternoon. He was talking about having the gates locked down there, so campers might not be able to just go down there and get in. They should call either Jake or the highway department first to make sure the gate's unlocked so they can get in. Concerned about just people getting in and screwing around with their vehicles in the areas that they shouldn't be. So we can definitely get them in. Just make sure they call first.
Good idea.
Oh, Jake or you?
Either one.
Okay.
Either one. We'll get them in.
Okay. Sounds good, thank you.
Well, I was told with regard to that recreation or the land issue, Houston County was giving them $1,600 in credit against the value, and the state has dropped it down to $700. I don't know if that's an arbitrary number or, we gotta stick to a number, but the way the company has done it is they've dropped that to $700.
Yeah, and I don't understand how they.
The value per acre in a lot of cases $300. The ones that I had the issues with, they dropped from 1,600 to 700 and raised the value of 300. So that was a $1,200 increase in the value of their acreage. $1,200 per acre in their value increase.
Well, and that's the double whammy that I'm hearing the complaints about, is that, and that's why I'm trying to understand is how they're being forced by the state to drop the rural preserve value when that is a state credit that's been allowed for landowners to keep unless they were to sell that land. It's mainly for farmers or landowners who have a chunk of woods in their land. It's not really making them any money, so, and they don't have it there so they can sell it. It's something that's part of their farm, and they were to get this credit so they didn't have to pay the high tax value on that because it's worth more than that. So that's where I'm at with the Department of Revenue. All those people are working from home too, and I'm on my 3rd person now trying to find out. So
I was told that Fillmore and Winona County went to that last year. Dropped to $700 last year.
Winona County told me that they left the rural preserve alone. They did raise the land value last year.
Well, they're still at 1,600.
That's what Winona County told me. Yep.
Well, I was told wrong. Okay.
Well, this is something we'll get into and try to find answers to, so. Guys are saying that, I was talking to one guy last night who called, said his went up like $300,000, so, on his property, so. I know mine went up too, I think it was like 127, but whatever.
Had a guy with a 40 acre, his property value went up 128%.
Yeah,
It's a fairly high increase.
yeah, that's just it. It doesn't, and there's no rhyme and reason to it. That's the hard part I don't understand as far as, some people's is not so much and some people's are. I just got a copy, Jeff sent out a copy of the sales ratios too for farmland, and I gotta get some clarification on that too, but there's some, the ratios, there was only like 5 parcels that there was below the ratio of, you're supposed to be between 0.90 to 105, and there was like 5 that were below that because they sold for more than they were marketed at, so, I'm working on trying to get answers for that too. And I don't want to be bugging the assessor's office because I know they're getting a lot of calls, so I'm trying to leave them alone and not ask them questions besides, so, until some of the dust settles here.
Well, we'll need the answers to make a final decision.
Yep.
In our meeting.
Yep. Bob, you got, or Teresa, are you done, or?
Yes, I'm done.
Okay, Bob, you have anything?
Well, we had our land committee meeting this morning, but there was, Ryan gave us the reports on everything that we were talking about and all that, so I don't really have much to report on.
Okay. Jack?
Not really, I've been getting, weekly updates from Hiawatha Valley rather than any meetings there, and, they just got a $5,000 grant from, Winona Foundation, I believe, to help people who are having mental, I don't know the words breakdown, but the additional stress of this whole thing, they can use the additional funding. Otherwise, they are responding, wherever and whenever they can, so things seem to be going well there. Other than that, on a personal point, by the next time we meet, I might look like Willie Nelson with a ponytail if I don't get out of this house pretty soon.
Is that why you're in the dark there, Jack? Because all we see is just your yellow shirt. It looks yellow anyway.
I just I chose the wrong window to sit in front of Eric. I think that's the problem. I wanted to be out of the recliner this time in case I looked like I was in the hole.
You should pull the shades on that window, then we could see you better.
We can't wear shades.
Okay, I don't have anything either. My meetings have been all canceled, and Teresa made that one that I couldn't attend. I was out in the field and didn't have good service, so, but, I just wanted to mention that Elizabeth Hodak would be a good extension committee member to be added onto that. And, as far as that money that was devoted for the, intern that didn't, I assume Mike couldn't get that filled. I guess I don't have a problem with that being used to help with the fair. I don't know what everybody else thought on that is, but I don't know if we have to reappropriate that or how that works, but that's something we could look into.
We have plenty of time for making that decision at this point, so it was just something brought up, and I said I would bring it to the rest of the board.
Okay.
I too think that they can really use it for a lot of the projects for the fair, but, we got time.
Yep.
Is there a listing of everything that they do for the fair?
I think so. I would probably get that from Lisa, our regional director, would have a pretty detailed list. She's a pretty detailed person.
Cause I don't know what the Fair Board does versus what Extension does.
Right. We should be able to get that.
Yeah, Rebecca does the 4-H part of the fair, so that's her role. The Fair Board is separate, they have their different roles too, so.
Wow.
There he is.
Showed up.
Hey, yeah, you do need a haircut there, Jack.
Yeah, the other side of the dining room table works better.
Big move right at the end.
I don't know, Jack, you brought this up earlier, on the hiring freeze. Do you wanna elaborate some more on that, or have that discussion now, or in the future, or?
Can we put that for the next, what do we got, a work session coming up?
Yep.
Why don't we put that on the agenda?
Okay.
I
do.
appreciate that.
All right, we'll do that.
Okay.
Also, I was supposed to bring up a little bit too about that, Botcher Park. Dick has been working with Bob on that and getting ready to put in for the SHIP grant for, I think, for the picnic area and the bike racks, and I don't know, do you need to hear from him, or should he contact you, Bob, about that, or?
Contact me, and I mentioned it at the last work group. We've got $1,500 in the budget for parks. And I gotta talk to Brian and Patrick and see if we can use our county forces to do a little cleanup, do some mowing down there, and get some of that ready for picnic use. I don't think we're gonna have the money or the time to do anything with the trails this year. I think this year I wanna get the picnic area and the parking squared away. If you can get the sign money for the sign and whatnot, that would be great. And then next year we can do formally do the trails around through the woods. I mean, he's got it laid out as far as where the trails are, but financially we can't afford to do the trails, and I wanna it's just gotta be done in a sequence.
Okay.
I figured, Teresa, that Dick was whispering in your ear there, poking at you or something.
I would have to see if he can get on the, you know. He just walked out. Yeah, he's been lurking.
Is there anything else? If not, is there a motion to adjourn? Oh, Bob. Second?
Second.
Now let's all say this together. Aye. It works, somewhat. Thank you all.
Meeting adjourned at 11:31.